Peace and one love to the hip hop. We winding down, folks. Got the two next years I'm gonna be talking about for the hip hop from the 90s. I call it the Wonder Years. Before I get into that and talk about this upcoming year, I want everybody to subscribe. Do that for me. Appreciate that. I want everybody to also like this video. And I also want you to share this video with all the true hip hop heads or the hip hop junkies or the hip hop fans out there. And we need to be collaborating to talk about the real. The real. You know what I'm saying? I got the Big Den hats. I like to promote my hat line. Big Den hats, the hip hop edition, representing the cassette tape. That's what I started out on, listening to my music. Um, the tapes lasted for a long time, man. I remember those Jones popping, putting them back together, listening to it again. You know, I love the tape era. I still have my tape collection and my man Den as we speak with some of the classic tapes, you know, in my spinner joint that I got that hold like 100 cassette tapes. So let's get into the year of 1998, folks. I like to say 1998. 98 hip hop was to me my favorite year in hip hop. It was to me like 88 was the best year of the 80s. I think 98 was the best year for the 90s far as hip hop albums. So many albums came out that I'm gonna get right into. I'm gonna start out with just my top 10 albums and what they meant to hip hop. And then talk about the others that came out. It was a whole lot, man. I'm talking about like this was the year that 88 brought hip hop out of the darkness. This one, 98, took hip hop to that next level, in my opinion. Some greats about the name. People that took hip hop, you know, and made it a thing not to mess with for sure. You know, before it fizzled out a little bit and much right now. So let's get into it. 98 hip hop. I like to start out with the Locks. The Locks, man, was came out with their first album, which was Money, Power, Respect. Money, Power, Respect, and some nice joints on there. They introduced people to that group, man, that was doing their thing for a while before they album came out, you know, collaborations and being on other people's albums. You know, they was on Biggie Life After Death album. But this joint, man, introduced us to the three-head monster of each dude had their own style that they brought to the group. Jada, which is my favorite, a lot of other people's favorites. He had to me, the best flow out of the group. Styles P was the hardest, the most gangster. He had the best delivery in the group. And then you had Sheik Luch, which to me was the grimiest dude of the whole crew. And they just brought their collaboration and energy was raw like no other group that you ever heard before, man. Um, you know, some lyrical beats definitely they brought to the hip hop that year, the Locks. Then we also had Gangstar coming out with another album again, The Moment of Truth, which was my favorite album, man, of the Gangstar albums. Each album was flawless and top notch, but this one to me just took it to the level that the other ones didn't. I ain't gonna say didn't gravitate towards. Every album elevated, and this one elevated more than other. That's about personal opinion. Guru continued to bring them rhymes. Premier always bringing up raw production. A Moment of Truth, man. Definitely, man. Some nice collaborations on that album as well. Then you have my dude, Big Pun. Um, yo, gravitated towards him instantly as soon as I heard him. Like every mixtape that came out when I was heavy into getting the mixtapes at that time, going to the record store, every time I seen his name on a track, no matter how good or bad the mixtape was, if I seen his name, I grabbed it. He had the most collaborations for 1 year, I think. Any artist with the most collaborations. He was just popping up on everybody joint, man. Like, you know, came out with Fat Joe, finally did that album. Yo, the first Latin to do a lot of stuff, go double platinum and all that good stuff. He had unforgivable jaw dropping lyrics. Flow was undeniable, man. He would spit that fast shit. Took advantage of his Spanish roots with with that the language and everything. What made him like a machine gun, man, just rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire. That Capital Punishment album was. Then you have Ruckus Records. They brought out the Lyricist Lounge Volume One. They also did a Volume Two, and I think they did a Volume Three. But this first one was based on the Lyricist Lounge underground scene in New York. Well, a lot of performers, a lot of underground performers used to perform at. They did an album based on that. And this album was collaboration of a lot of different underground artists at that particular time. Um, all throughout the album, yeah, so many people, man. It's too many people to mention because I want to keep going on to the next albums, man, to make this because there's so many albums to talk about. But yo, Q-Tip popped up on there. You got Most Def, Talib Kweli, um, Thurston Howell the Third. You had the Cipher. There was so many people, man. You got to check that joint out. But like I said, all the people that was the banging, super banging underground groups at that particular time was on that album. Underground for the underground heads for sure, and people like the hip hop, pure, not watered down, without the commercial bullshit. This album was for them particular people. Then you had also M.O.P. came out for Family for Life, one of my favorite groups. M.O.P. definitely did that thing on this album. They continue to bring the street rawness, Lil Fame, you know, and Billy Dance bringing it the best way they could. Street hardcore, hardcore, hardcore to the bone. No man, taking rap, gangster rap to that next level, and lyrical flows with gangster swag. What they brought to hip hop and what they brought to with that album that year. And then you had Busta Rhymes' crew. He had brought his crew out that he was bringing out because you know Busta Rhymes. A lot of people, if you don't know, he came from the group Leaders of a New School. His new crew, much more hardcore, that lyrical. It was the Flip Mode Squad. He had them for a while before they broke up and whatever. I was looking forward to the part two album, Imperial 2, I think it was going to be called. But Imperial's the name of their first one. He brought with us some heavy lyrical hitters. Baby Sham. He brought with us his cousin Rampage. He brought Rod Digger. You know, that was also her second crew she was part of. She was also part of the Outsiders. Then you had my favorite out of the crew, Lord Have Mercy. They brought you, man, some banging joints. That whole album, all the way through, banging. My favorite joint was, yo, MG wanna battle? Yo, MG wanna get down? Or what y'all wanna do? Ah, cha 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 cha. Yo, that was my shit. Cha 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 cha. Yo, Spliff Star, part of that group, became one of the best hype men of our time. You know, was part of that group as well. He's still doing his thing with Buster. You know, they antics and everything, what they do, improvs. It's crazy what to see him twice, Buster Rhymes. Lucky to see Buster twice, but that group, Flip Mode, definitely a classic album to have in your collection, for sure. Then we had the two dudes, the two lyrical underground kings, I call them. Two great MCs, man. Super dope. Most Def and Talib came together and do a collaboration album. The Black Star album, really nice album, man. I'm talking about like a bunch of raw energy and MCing, along with some knowledge of self and black awareness. Along with that, bringing that underground sound as well. It reminds you of collaboration of like bringing back like the PE, the De La Soul and Tribe feel, you know, of that type of vibe with their own twist to it. A little dash of De La Soul as well. The new De La call them the native tongue of our era during that time of 1998. The new native tongue era, the Black Star album, a must have, one of my top albums for that year. Then we had our dude, man, the Monster. You know what I mean? Persifying that dog image. You know what I'm saying? We had the dude, DMX, came up with the album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. I'll say one of my favorite albums of that year as well. That energy was like no other. Um, what he brought, to the presence every time he was on a track was energy, 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 rawness. The album was electrifying energy, super hype album. Um, a spiritual journey too. You could tell from the rhymes and a lot of the songs was a lot of pain and suffering, But bananas. As far as the lyrics, man, he definitely brought a lot to his rhymes. Definitely, definitely, his album was a car banger. You could play in your ride, no matter if you had a little small little hoopty or you had a fucking family size car or you had a fucking SUV. You know what I'm saying? You bump that shit and turn the volume up all the way up with that DMX shit. He was the first one to do a first one to do two albums, folks, in 1 year. In '98, towards the end of the year, he did another one that was also a classic. No hip hop artist at that particular time ever that did an album like that. He's the most influenced MC ever. Probably more bigger than the Tupac was. Imagine if them two would have did an album together, folks. That would have been phenomenal. That would have been off the meat rack for sure. Um, but he brought that rawness, man, that energy like no other on stage. Perfect raw energy. Now, my other album I have to talk about on this list is The RZA. I had to end it with him, the leader of the Wu, man, that continued to bring them beats phenomenal, always giving you that realness of that underground feel to everything that he does. The Bobby Digital was an album that came out '98, experimental album that was fun, electrifying to me, in my opinion. MCing was raw. The collaborations of people he brought along with him on that journey, as well, was dope in my opinion. Mantis was my favorite song on this album because it came from my favorite kung fu movie called The Deadly Manners, where the boy teaches him how to fight looking at the manners. He seen the manners. Well, he actually taught himself how to fight from watching the praying manners, and the way that the praying manners lift up, pieces of branches and everything like that from using his high arms and picking up things twice his weight, just like an ant does. Dude incorporated that in his kung fu to defeat the dude that he had to fight towards the end, and him using that and sampling that also in his album was the icing on the cake. That actually made me like the album a whole lot. And that was his alter ego, Bobby Digital, the character that he used on the album and presenting himself as well. And there was a lot of other albums